Or the lock line. I like the lock line a lot, too, from Lin Shui Ya as well, which is like the following episode. Picking the lock is like...
Oh my god!
More temperamental than the finest lady.
I died. And then his follow-up was something like, but that's what makes the effort worthwhile in the aftermath.
Oh,
or
yes.
something. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I blinked so much in that scene, so I was like, is this an innuendo? Yeah.
Look, they had to cut away from the lock for a reason. Real quick.
Oh, I died.
That's great.
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Welcome one and all to the box, the Any Chat box. This is episode 63, and I am your host, Gregory von Maximus III, twice removed. It's lovely to come to you this fine evening with not even just a full house, but a Netflix original series, Fuller House. We have not one, not two, not three, but 6 people in this house. Actually, 7. Nope, 6. I can't count. Regardless.
Nice job.
Let's break it down. The producer extraordinaire, to my right, Cass.
Oh, hey, fam.
The precious cinnamon roll on the East Coast, Cammy.
Hello, I'm in dancing boy hell. Thanks, Atlas.
Nice. The gentleman Jojo, Jonathan Joestar.
Hello, everyone.
And the man hailing from SoCal, and who claims he hates anime, but pays attention to anime, Zach from Saber Progress.
I am the man of many names, one from the mountains, wrestler of bears. I am Zach.
And the one that proverbially calls himself not a weeb, Zach's friend's Dom, aka Cass's boyfriend.
I'm just tagging along.
You like to party?
Oh yeah, totally. Every day.
Every day.
Right
All day,
on,
er
right
day.
on. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get down to some housekeeping and the nitty-gritty for the social medias. Twitter.com/theanychatbox if you want to hit us up in 240 characters or less. anychatmail@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. Again, that is anychatmail@gmail.com. Send us a topic suggestion, an anime, new or old, that you wish us to review. If you disagree with our splash tanks, let us know that we were wrong in your eyes. And if you haven't figured this out by now, we are a podcast. We can be found on multiple platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Leave us a rating. 5 stars are greatly appreciated. We'll read your review on the air. And if you find it within your heart of hearts, aka Kingdom Hearts, hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/anychatbox. Starting last episode, we got some custom artwork with a banner as well as an icon for the pod made by the artist Chickaboom. You can hit her up on Twitter, as well as she has a co.fi website, as well as a personal website where she's able to sell all of her wares, even on Etsy. All of these informations and the links shall be listed below. That being said, it is a host choice, and if you haven't gathered by now, since I'm talking, it's my host choice. Funny enough, I thought of this while right before the podcast. The last time Zach was here was on my last host choice, which was Daily Lives of High School Boys.
I keep getting dragged back in here for some reason.
Against your will,
It's like your best
no doubt.
friends or something. Who knows?
Nah.
Fuck.
Nah.
Guys, we're gonna talk about not anime today, but should be considered anime
We're
in my eyes.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Totally,
Great
150%.
debate.
I was about to say, how can you
Best
say
anime
something?
of 2016.
Of
somebody
Oh my
said.
god,
16?
stop.
Excuse you, I believe Rakugo Shinju also came out that year, so you're gonna have to
Wait,
stick
did
a
it
couple
really?
steps
The
back.
first
I'm about
season.
90%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, it's on.
And, yeah, there is no way.
Okay. Thunderbolt Fantasy, aka sword travels from the east. So when I looked this up, it has no Mal page, obviously because it's not an animated show. It's a puppet show. So
silence. They don't know.
I know. I have to cut it. I have to give it to him straight, Zach. I have to give it to him straight. So this was a joint production between 3 companies. The good folks at Nitro Plus, Good Smile Company, and Peely International Media. Mm-hmm. I noticed that someone actually broke it down here. Okay. So Nitro Plus Visual is a dev that creates visual novels such as Supersonico and the PS4 fighting game classic Nitro Plus Blasters, Heroines, Infinite Duel. Good Smile Company. If you don't know them, they create Nendroids, the $30 to $50 things with multiple exchanging parts to your favorite and greatest anime character.
Also figures.
Also figures, yes. Figures. And the third one, again, Peely International Multimedia. That is the Taiwanese puppet production company producing Peely, one of the most popular glove puppet shows in Taiwan.
Yeah, they were... They're the people who handle all the puppetry and the design work for the show, essentially. And Gen Urobuchi stumbled across them when he was in a convention in Taiwan and actually wanted to bring one of their shows over, but then they ended up just making a deal to make an original show together. So
yes. And that leads me to like a little bit of fun facts before we dive into all of the nitty-gritty with this one. Basically, Zach said it first. Gen Urobuchi went out to Taiwan and got impressed with this little IP and like the idea of puppetry, and he just essentially with Nitro Plus and Good Smile and them actually created this show. And basically it aired in Japan starting July 8th, 2016. It was simulcast in iQIWI, Taiwan, and Crunchyroll under 3 official languages: Taiwanese, Minnan, aired in Taiwan; Mandarin Chinese, aired in China; and Japan, obviously, in Japan. And we got the Japanese release on Crunchyroll. So there is a slight bit of confusion when it comes to naming conventions and some obvious bits of Chinese in this production as well. And obviously the music compositions by Hiroyuki Sawano, and the baller ass opening theme song is Raime composed by TM Revolution.
That's my boy.
Yeah. Okay. With all those nitty-bitty, gritty details out of the way, let me break down the synopsis for y'all. Set in an Eastern fantasy setting, Dawn Fei and her brother, guardians of a sword known as the Tianjing Jian. I'm going to start butchering names. We're all probably going to butcher names unless we use
I'm pretty sure that'll be common among everyone.
Yep. Are pursued by the evil Xuanguizong clan, who seek to obtain the sword for their master Mei Tian Hai. While her brother is defeated, Fei, who possesses the sword's crossguard, escapes and finds herself in the care of a wandering swordsman, Zhang Pu Huan, and a mysterious man named Gui Niao, aka the enigmatic Gale, who becomes her protectors from the pursuing Zhang clan. So basically, I chose this show because not only was it was a one core, 13 episodes. They recently, I would say last winter, released a special movie focused on one of the characters, the Screaming Phoenix Killer. But I figured it was such a different take on kind of like a wushu sort of an interesting story, all kind of like Akatsuki no Yona, and I didn't see it very often. And funny enough, Zach actually brought the show to my attention, me and Pete.
Okay, I forced them to sit down and watch it one evening.
Yes. It was really good, and I actually wanted to see what everyone else here thought, despite some trepidations going in. So,
well, we definitely have our thoughts and opinions and emotions that we will give to you on a silver platter, I'm quite sure.
Ooh, yes. Cass, what emotions do you have for this feast.
Oh, okay. Well, if we're gonna throw me in front of the bus first,
you volunteered.
Okay, well, before we start that, I do want to let people who might be a little confused know that we're not going to do a topic this week. Those will be coming back next week. We're just going to go and jump right in since we have so many people and so many things to say and feel that we're just gonna have a review today. That being said, we normally start with story first when it comes to reviewing stuff, and I think that the story is okay and it's fun. And if you turn your brain off, you don't have to think about it too much. But I feel like it has one of the most lackluster endings that I've seen in a long time.
Really?
I feel like there's a Deus Ex Machina kind of feeling to the ending.
I think that's fair.
Yeah?
And
100%.
There really is.
Like, oh, hey, here's a sudden answer to all of our problems right now. Why? Because fuck you. Other than that, though, the trip, I think they say that the trip is more important than the destination, and I was laughing and having so much fun with Dominic. We were having a lot of fun with a lot of the panning work that was going on.
The dramatic pans.
It's really good, especially with the Screaming Phoenix Killer. Like, I rewatched most of the show just today, in the scene where him and Shang-Hu Huan meet up and have an exchange. It's just all these cuts. It's insane.
Yeah, there's like a specific episode where one character's like, fuck you guys, I'm going off on my own, and it does a fast pan and on it into everybody's faces, and then the episode ends.
That
and we
was
started laughing our ass
amazing.
off.
That was amazing.
It's a different style where they obviously puppets can't really emote, so they did them emoting either the overdramatic hand movements or the camera.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like that emphasizes more the dramatic acting or melodramatic acting, so to speak. So,
and I'm pretty sure we'll get to that later. But when it comes to story, like, I think Dominic, you summarized it the best when we were watching it, and he would just be like, "Wow, this is so chuny." But yeah, that's just how I felt about the story. This is so chuny right now. That's it.
It's very wushu inspired, very straightforward.
Yeah.
And like most kung fu films, it's very straightforward and just to the point, and just and you're there for the fight scenes, not really for
the deep engaging
plot line.
The intricacies and characterizations of each person on board this ragtag team of people to save the world.
Yeah. I definitely liked the... were you done?
Oh, yeah, for the most part. I was going to say, I don't know what else I can say without going into, like, other aspects of the review. Like, there's not much to say in regards to story for this one on my end, other than I was really unsatisfied with the ending.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I liked the fact that it is, like, a kind of motley crew that assembles and then, like, goes somewhere together. But I noticed very quickly on, for me, the show just had a format of, like, talking, cool action sequence, talking, cool action sequence. And like my attention span with it honestly just kind of went through lulls and highs, because like I found myself personally being pretty bored with a lot of the talking, partially because a lot of the like characters are just left in very vague sentences. They're like, oh, so and so does this thing that we're not really going to specify, so I'm like, they're doing all this like vague setup. So I'm kind of disengaged, but here's some cool action. Oh my god. And I think as far as peak of story interest for me, it didn't really kick in until maybe the last 3 episodes, which I thought were pretty good and very interesting, and things just kind of kicked into gear.
I can see that, because when I did my rewatch today, I didn't... The first time in 2016 when I watched it, I was like really engaged in it. Now, me knowing what to expect of it, before I went in, I was like, okay, I remember a lot of awesome choreography, a lot of good production with this show, but you're right, there's a lot of hard stop talking, just trying to reflect on everything, but everyone speaks vague terms because, let's face it, this motley crew are a bunch of, like, no-names who have, like, infamy about them in some way, shape, or another, and they don't really expound upon it.
Yeah.
Or they brush upon it, but they don't really fully address it. And then they're like, oh shit, we gotta like fight the bad guys in one way, shape, or another. And you're like, damn, that's really cool that they killed all those people.
Yes.
Watching through it, there was a number of times while I was sitting here and I was just like, what a twist!
What a twist!
M. Night Shyamalan, where'd you come from?
It's just like things that just suddenly happened, and like, oh, so we need the help of this necromancer, and it turns out to be this one particular necromancer. What a twist! And it just ended up being other things that happened later on that were like, okay, so whatever. But that being said, I was still enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
And yeah, the more I think about it, the more I was like, this was a pretty dumb show, but I still enjoyed it. So, for the most part, anyway. The action sequences actually took me really off guard at the start, because I was like, how action-packed could they really make puppets? Pretty damn action-packed, actually. I was not expecting to see blood flying across the screen. They pulled it off.
Damn, this was a gory show.
Yeah, we'll probably talk more about that and the productions aspect of it. What were you going to say, Dominic? I saw you open your mouth and you didn't actually make words come out.
I was just gonna say that when it comes to like the plot, I think like the bit, because when me and Cassie started episode 1, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. And because like the first episode is just like them completely showcasing what they can do with the puppets and everything. I think even now, like the first episode still has the best like showcasing of the choreography and the like special effects and everything.
Yep.
And so you have like that really, really, really good like first episode where the crew kind of like shows exactly what they can do, and then like the show kind of like lulls for a bit, and like it just has this part where they're like getting everyone together and like going through all the little trials and stuff, and I think like that initial like high followed by this kind of lull for a bit kind of like took me like, or at least reduced my enthusiasm until like the end where things actually start to pick up again. But
I can see that.
Total sense.
Yeah.
Summary.
Once they gathered the fellowship, to go,
The fellowship.
I mean, to go gather, basically put the band group together to get through Spine Mountains and getting to the Seven Sins Tower. Was that?
The seven.
The back
Sins
half
Tower,
is definitely the stronger half of the show.
It's true.
I feel, and so.
Should we move on to characters then, Craig?
Yes. And all their confusing names. Zach, you drew up a handy dandy little guide.
I wrote them down for my own personal need, but I'm glad everyone else needed this too.
Yep.
Even upon rewatching it, the names still throw you off. So to start this section off, who were all y'all's favorite characters? Zach, since you were talking last, who was your favorite character?
Lin Shuya, or the Enigmatic Gale, but I really do enjoy Jean-Pu Huan. I think those two were play off each other. They have a very fun relationship with each other, and really overall that's the biggest enticement of the show. I think all the characters are unique and interesting to follow, but those two have the most chemistry. They're obviously there since the get-go. So they have this fun playfulness with each other, even though it's a one-sided playfulness.
You mean where Jean-Pu Huan
gets frustrated and Lin Shuya's like, oh, I'm having so much fun. Which fits so much into his whole overall character. He just likes fucking with people. And so just like, I just like seeing you get frustrated, and I just like playing around and see what you can do. But beyond that, I did like Shabu Shen, the Screaming Phoenix Killer. I think is a big standout among the rest of the Fellowship. Yeah, I think he's just a fun villain, weird, crazy, overpowered
villain
dude who just like he's just fun to see go around and has his own weird sense of like what he wants to do, and she's like, okay, I'm just gonna. My whole goal is to kill this guy, even up until the very end. That was his end goal. He's like, I'm gonna kill this fucker. I don't care what y'all doing. I'm just gonna do my thing.
He's driven in his goal.
And he's the only of the side casts besides Jean-Pu Huan and Lin Shuya to have their own spin-off story. So he has like a little prequel thing. So
that's the special that came out last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I need to check that out.
Also up on Crunchyroll.
John?
Yeah, I was about to say it since I should probably should go next. I put Shambu Huan as my favorite character.
Yeah.
I just found him really intriguing, and yeah, again, part of that was also how he played with Ling Zhuwa, or the how you pronounce his name.
Their banter again.
And when they came out with the nickname for him, I was like, this is going to be really... He's going to accept this name because it's going to be really fitting, because that just seems how he is. And then and then during the flight that was after that, it kind of like, okay, yeah, I see how it's really fitting for him. And admittedly, I kind of called it out. But yeah. Yeah, so I really enjoyed his character. I really liked him. I liked how he stuck. He was a fairly simple character as well, but still had enough intrigue that I really enjoyed him, so I really latched onto him.
He's a fun archetype. He pretends nothing bothers him, but really he gets frustrated by, like, everything.
Yeah.
So, I don't care. What?
No,
fuck you guys, I'm leaving.
I adored that whole bit. I love how he just kind of was the one that would, like, look at the screen and be like, what the fuck is happening? Or, like, are you fucking serious right now? Like, he spoke to me as a viewer. I was like, I'm there with you, man.
He's the simple weird self-insert, so they can explain the world and the plot and all that, but it's a really fun one. It's not like the teenager or the young person who's like learning everything, but it's just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I'm not from around here. Tell me what's going on, because I don't know. Like,
exactly.
It's not like we've got viewers that don't have a fucking clue what's going on.
He also doesn't seem like he cares about what's going on, but the people just tell him anyway. And he's just, oh, okay, I guess this is what's going on now.
Jeez.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I really did like that aspect of him. Anywho, enough about me.
Cammy.
Okay, so yeah, I did appreciate Shang Buhuan as a character for the reasons we mentioned, and the fact that his voice is done by the velvety talented Junichi Suwabe, and it was awesome every time he talked. But as far as characters, my favorite character, like literally from the moment he came up on screen, and Craig, I knew for some reason that you weren't responding because of like big reasons, but Lin Juya, like I was like, he's so pretty, he's beautiful. He is like the kind of like silly kind of prankster sagely like character. He's just mischievous and is also wise, and I just really, really loved that about him. I found him to be pretty much the most fascinating character. Like every time that something was talked about with him, I paid the most attention, I think. I also really liked, I'm going to mess this up, Juan Kanyun, the Frozen Wonder, Spear Boy. He
was so precious.
Yeah.
He's so extra.
Pure.
He's
good.
I love when he gets frustrated in the show, and he just like rubs his hair, like,
He just wants to do good. Boy. He's just such a cute little boy. Just wants to save the world and be a hero.
If you want to talk about the most Chuuni character in the show, well, that's him.
He also came up with his own
that
nickname.
Freaking show. Were you watching the whole thing?
I just said the most Chuuni. That's all.
Oh no,
Yeah,
man!
agree.
Antagonist guy had his moments. Oh,
you're right. Where he would just wipe away his mask and be like,
I mean, he is called the bones of creation. So.
Yeah, like you want to talk about the most Chuuni. I mean,
okay, he wants to be the most Chuuni, but he can't.
There you
He's
go.
working on it.
He's trying so hard.
He's striving for his goals.
He
to
tries
be the most
so
Chuuni.
hard. He's like, watch me call my fucking demon bird. I'm just gonna like ride.
And he also the second fun character to be confused by practically everything going on around him as well. So.
What, Schwan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also liked his derpy crush on Don Fei, too.
Aw,
it's cute.
When he's like,
it's so fucking
he
cute.
says something so fucking stupid and like chauvinistic, and then he's like, man, why do I keep screwing up when I talk to girls? And I'm like, oh, honey.
Even up until the very end when he's being trained in the ways of the sword, and he's like, I'm so tired of waving the sword around.
I want to go use my lance. Or my spear, whichever one it was.
Yeah, his lance.
Yeah. Out of all the Motley Crew, the Fellowship, they all have their unique personalities. I mean, to say Shangpu Huan and Lin Kuei were like the best in the show is like an obvious statement. I just I'll agree with Cammy. Shangpu Huan, Junichi Suabe, just the fact that he's so done with everyone's shit. He literally looks at the camera, he shakes it, he puts his hand up to his face.
How many finger wags does that boy do throughout the show? So
yeah.
And just the baller way he gets his sword out, he just slams his sheath against the ground in order to propel it out of its sheath and just go to town when he's about to fight. I'm like, yes, you got style. Cass, what about you?
I really liked, and I'm going to give some shout outs to my girl. I liked Dawn Fei a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You like Dawn Fei?
And one of the things that I was so excited about, I think it was episode 3, I came out and I was talking to Zach and Craig, and I was like, finally, we have a female who's guarding something, or could be the princess character in this case, the I don't know, the priestess of the shrine or whatever, help taking care of this thing. And I was like, but she can also fight. Awesome. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now here's my problem though. Yeah, and like what Dominic just did. You give her all of this potential. There's even a time when she's training with Wan San Yun, I believe, and that's when he accidentally makes a chauvinistic remark. But I think he did it in a way that was trying to help her, because he's you're a woman, so you need to change up some of your stances. You need to move faster and do these things. And she's like, are you saying that there's something wrong with the way I fight? And he's like, no, it'll work great for your future son. And that's what pisses her off. But I mean, he had a really good point. She needed to change up her fighting style. And I thought that was going to be something that came back and she did really fucking amazing. No.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for that too. And
my girl gets stuck in fucking damsel in distress mode for most of the rest of the show, and that left a bad taste in my mouth, and is another reason I was very angry by the end.
Yeah.
That was completely unnecessary in every way, shape, and form.
She had one fight scene in episode 3, and I couldn't remember. When you brought that up to me and Zach, I was like,
she had another fight.
I remember that.
Another major fight towards the end too. Against
she had a fight. She had a fight towards the end, but it was more of a way to show that she was weaker, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was also set up, and it was also a setup for Guan Yao or whatever to work his magic in a way that I'm not going to spoil. But she was basically just used at the end with her fight scene. But then she never got to do anything, and everybody's like, "Oh, stay in this cage." I'm not going to say why she was in one, but they just completely shoved her to the side, and that really made me mad. There was no reason to do that. You gave this woman a way to fight and show that she could actually contribute, and then every man in the freaking party was like, no, you can't contribute. That made me mad.
Yeah.
And she was one of my favorite characters up until she got shoehorned like every other female. But I really liked Lin Shuya, the enigmatic gal. He has probably ended up being my favorite character by the end. Also because he's one of the people who was like, oh, don't underestimate this chick.
Yeah.
So I appreciated him a lot. Dawn Fei had a lot of potential, but then, she got pushed to the side like a lot of girls do in these kind of shows.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
She probably would have been higher on my ranks as well if she had actually been given the chance to actually step up. And
it's very unfortunate because I feel Urobuchi tends to be better writing female characters, but maybe it's because he's so focused on telling a specific type of story, focused on these specific characters, and I think everyone else kind of falls to the wayside. Even some of the other members of the Fellowship, I feel kind of had a I felt the One Eye Impaler kind of had a end. Even the Necromancer girl kind of had a at the very end too. A lot of characters kind of the remaining of the Fellowship kind of fall off.
They were never really painted as useless, though. And if anything, up until the last time you see any of those characters, they're providing something.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like they took away most of what Dawn Fei was for, other than, oh, she carries around a part of the sword.
Yeah, she is the most important one character that got the worst payoff in the end.
Shaft.
Like most of the characters fell off, but since she's arguably the third most important character of the main three, you know, like those three, Shampoo Huan, Lin Shui, and Zhang Fei, she definitely gets a major fall off, and it's much more noticeable.
Yep.
It's
Kind of
sad.
unfortunate.
It's
Who's
very
your favorite
unfortunate.
character, Dominic?
My favorite character?
Yeah.
Mine was, I'm probably gonna fuck up this name, but mine was Shavun Sheng, or the Screaming Phoenix Killer.
Ooh.
Nice. Good.
And that's just because he was a total badass. Well, he's
so true.
He's a total badass, and he's voiced by Nobuyuki Hiyama, who's like one of my favorite voice actors.
Nice.
And to always have him in like these kind of like chuuni, like dramatic, like dark, like sort of brooding roles like this, it's always really funny because like he's just so good at it.
Do you imagine him
He owns
like
it.
whispering sweet, creepy nothings into your ear?
I mean,
I won't get mad.
I would be a fan of that.
Yes.
It's funny because I'm just like when I talked about the production, like the exchanges he has with people are just so like funny. And there's this one exchange he has with the kid with the lance, Xuan. He goes, well, you haven't mastered meteor step yet. And he's like, that's cheating! You're taking my kills! Why? Because he just wanted to show him up.
That was cute.
And you know what? And the Scream Phoenix Killer has one of the better moments. Like, when I feel like all the characters kind of like fell off, I think he's one of the few members of the Fellowship I felt like had a good send-off.
Yeah, the bit at the end is also one of the main reasons I like his bit. Like one of his last moments is like one of my favorite parts, just because I like that sort of like stupid,
Over dramatic,
like pride, like in like the kind of like the Vegeta complex, I guess.
Yes.
Where
I can see it.
they're like
100%.
way too prideful for their own good. Like I love that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think that when I was texting Zach, I was like, I think that this Screaming Phoenix Killer makes a more charismatic antagonistic character than the main freaking villain does. And I felt the same way about the Enigmatic Gale. It was like, but the Screaming Phoenix Killer was one that you always felt like, yeah, this is totally a bad guy.
Yes.
But is he really? Like,
he's kind of like a dumb bad guy.
Yeah.
Like,
but that just makes him endearing.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Like, he's actually fun. Like, when it got to the point where we had to, like, fight the big bad towards the end, like, I wasn't as intrigued as when there was, like, one of the final battles the Screaming Phoenix Killer had. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
This battle will end in 8 moves. No, 9.
Oh, that was good.
The Scream Phoenix Kill actually has one of my favorite lines, which is actually during that last edit when he's like, so you have a question? He's like, no, the Scream Phoenix Killer doesn't ask questions with words. It is with swords.
I love that bit too.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I'm like, that is like the best line in this entire fucking show right there.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
good.
chuuni.
It's so good. Or the lock line. I like the lock line a lot too from Lin Shui Ya as well, which is like the following episode. Picking the lock is like,
Oh my
more
god.
temperamental than the finest lady.
I died. And then his follow up was something like, but that's what makes the effort worthwhile in the aftermath.
Oh,
or
yes.
something. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I blinked so much in that scene, so I was like, is this an innuendo?
Yes!
Look, they had to cut away from the lock for a reason. Real quickly.
Oh, I died.
That's great.
Did everyone do their favorite character, or did Zach? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I named off like 5, but you know.
I mean, do you want to like? It's no surprise. Do you think that the villains aren't that good? The villains of the show aren't memorable, really, at all.
The villains aren't good. The antagonists are great.
Yeah, well said.
That's a good way, yeah,
I'm
putting it.
Zach, do you have thoughts?
It's both. What I was going to comment was spoiler related, so I'll hold up.
Oh,
I'd say that the characters carry this show for the most part, because I think we made a good point to show that there's not much going on story-wise with the show.
Yeah, the combination of the characters having fun personalities, great acting. This is a pretty all-star cast of like
Yeah, the
people
cast
for the
is
most
super
part.
good.
Like
Mhm.
Junichi Sawabe and like you said, Nobuyuki Hiyama, Kenichi Sumura.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of good people. They pulled out the stops when it comes to the casting in the show.
Urabuchi came into the room and just threw his freaking card everywhere and was like, hey,
it doesn't take much with that
so
boy.
have you ever heard of a puppet show?
That's how he got his damn puppet show made in the first place. Have you heard of goddamn Urabuchi?
I want the best in the business for my puppet show. And everybody was like, you got it, sir.
Also, I'm sure it was mentioned to me that this was Ginerabuchi, Ginerabuchi, and somehow that slipped my mind while I was watching it. And as I was after we finished watching it, his name was dropped again here. I was like, oh yeah, I really should have seen his handiwork in the fight.
I mean,
scene.
it's still not typical Bucci. This is the
Yeah.
period
No,
where
it's not.
Bucci was trying to go away from what makes him notable, because like this is around the time he also he finished Kamen Rider Gaim, which is a live action children's television show. He also
What a good
did an
show.
arc on another children's television show. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a 2-parter, like the equivalent of like Nick Jr. equivalent type television show. Like he did like a
Was it
2-episode
Doraemon?
thing. It was not Doraemon. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. So this is around the period he's kind of like, I am a fucking big ass name. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm gonna do this puppet show. Right for Kamen Rider. You know, he's trying to get away, I think, from what is being the butcher, I guess. So
Yeah,
The Uro Butcher.
the Urabuchi. Well, okay. Let's transition on over to the production. Probably, in my opinion, out next to the characters, the best highlight of this entire show.
arguably the biggest standout, actually. Like,
Yeah.
it's especially on the second viewing, like when Cammy's arguments with said about like the plotting and the constant monologuing and dialogue is slow. At least paying attention to the puppetry
Yeah.
and is so fascinating. And since I know the plot and the plot's pretty simple, it's like I can focus more on the puppetry this time around. So it was like got to notice how incredible the shots were, or the puppetry acting was on. Like noticing the details, like how Juan always ruffles his hair when he gets frustrated and stuff. Just really well done. And this is a studio that's known for doing Taiwanese puppetry, so they're not like beginners. They didn't give this to some random studio in Japan or something. They brought the best of the best onto it, and it definitely shows.
Yeah.
I also noticed how articulated the puppets are. Like the fingers could actually move.
Yeah.
For dramatic fist clothing scenes,
dramatic
just
fist
zoom in on
Yeah. They make the clenching noises too in the
it just
process.
sounds. They captured the melodrama really well.
Yeah. I'm with you, Zach, in the sense that, like, when I watched it for the second time around, I was able to pick up on the mannerisms a lot more rather than watching it. I still got kind of transfixed by the dumb action. Very good use of CGI with, like, the attacks and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And just the cinematography. Like, I watched the first 2 episodes with Kemi a few weeks back, and, like, she's like, wow, just the way that they're dressed, the fabric work that's put into their costumes.
Yeah.
Like the environments with the Buddha statue and the rain. It's like, you know, you don't realize how good they did it until you watch it again. You're like, man, they really pulled out all the stops in multiple facets here.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I went to a museum exhibit in Portland for Laika, the stop motion animation studio, and they had a lot of little just frames of like collections from their films. Like they would have a costume part, and you literally just saw the like I don't know, like 50 intricate little fabrics that they found and broke down to build the costumes and like the materials that are used for the props, the itty bitsy teeny tiny little props that make everything like so intricate. And so it was really fun to watch this show and just see those details, like the fabrics on the costumes, the way the costumes are sewn, the like jewelry. Oh my gosh, was so cool. So that was an aspect.
The necromancer too.
Yes.
And even down to the like special effects, even within use of puppetry, is like it ranges all over the place. Like there's the simplistic deaths. Like there are people who just flat out explode, and then they're just bits of pieces of them fly everywhere. But one of my favorite ones is like another character gets like his chest concave, and then you go to another shot, and you see his rib cage sticking out from the backside.
Yes.
And it's like details like that are really cool. I'm glad it goes from the two, where it goes from the city, like, oh, this character just explodes now. Boop, there's pieces of red cloth flying everywhere. And then the ones with, like, ribcage or a head flies off.
And, like, how well they pulled off puppetry decapitation is a weird weird thing to say, but, yeah.
It also creates, like, this sense of, like they went the extra mile again, even when people get stabbed or whatever or impaled, and then they just bleed from the mouth and they cough up blood.
Yeah.
You can actually just see it dripping off of the fat lip.
The sweat on their faces. The sweat on their faces.
The tears, the constant tears the characters would have. Like, but we keep. I mean, again, the production is the biggest star, but the choreography is the shining stuff of the show. It's just clear wushu style, over dramatic, naming off several different names of attacks, long form sentences while running at each other.
I don't think any one character used the same special attack.
I don't think they do.
It's always a different name.
Always something different.
Can I be that guy now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna be that guy. So I agree that the production is probably the best part of this show. But for me, it was also some of the worst parts of the show. For one, when we turned on the first episode, and granted, it got a little better after the first episode, but the fight scene that happened was one of the most fast-moving things I have ever seen in my life, and I could not follow what the hell was going on.
Yeah, there was a bit of that.
I looked at Dominic after, like, the first big fight scene, I was like, what just happened? Like, what is going... And that was a problem.
And I was, meanwhile, on the other hand, like, fuck yes.
So that's gonna be a taste thing. But for me, that was a problem. Also, sometimes, instead of actually having the puppets look like they're walking, they would just glide across the screen.
Yeah, they did.
And it looked really unnatural. Every time they called for a demon bird, I laughed my ass off because it looked so stupid.
Yeah, that CG is a little odd.
There's a big boss at the end where the CG looks pretty atrocious.
Oh yeah, that was.
And there was a moment where Dominic and me were watching, I think it was episode 13, or maybe it was 12, and there's two characters walking through a forest, and Dominic was like, oh, hey, green screen.
Oh, I think that's episode 12, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, there's like some very moment, like, you could tell that they did not cut corners in most places with how intricate things are, but when they did cut corners, it's really obvious. And that's a problem?
I agree. I also disagree. And I mean, so a part of me, like, I watch like tokusatsu and stuff like that too.
Yeah, likewise.
So
same.
There's a part of me that's like, on one hand, yes, there are like these aspects of the production that are less than ideal, like the CG for like the final boss or like the birds or whatever, and those are like the golem thing.
Yeah, for the second trial, right?
And I mean, like, that's kind of to be expected, I think, rather than making like a giant puppet that like would take like a lot of effort to like move and stuff. Instead, they just use the CG. But I think at the same time, like, you're not really there to sort of see like there's such minimal parts of the production that I don't really think it drags it down that much. And I think with like a production style like this that uses puppets instead of like, say, animation or like live action actors, I think that it's still like really impressive what was like put out.
Oh no.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying like it's all around bad. I'm just saying that the parts that like were dragged down for me were because of that. And also being the actual part where I get to be that guy in the room. I never got over the fact that these were puppets. That was my biggest problem with the show, and this is completely subjective. There are people who are going to go on the show and not give a crap. I could never get over it until the very end. Like, I just couldn't get over it. Yeah. And one of the reasons why, and I could never put my finger on it until Cammy was talking to me about it, and I was like, this is it. This is my problem with it. Like, the voice acting is very good. They do try and make the puppets show emotion, but their faces never move.
Yeah.
Not really.
And
it's very subtle to see the mouth movement, but it's not apparent.
And it's like, I would have been fine if they even just opened their mouth at the beginning of sentences and then closed it at the end. It would look more natural to me. But, like, there was rarely any, like, mouth movement. And, of course, eye movement was going to be mostly impossible outside of blinking. Which I did appreciate that they did. Like, they made the dolls blink. But... But for the most part, like, I could not get any emotion out of these freaking puppets, and that creeped me out.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue as well, was just that, and I think that's something that I enjoyed so much out of anime, so to have a show that does a lot of things like anime, but not have the emotive range that I usually find in, like, animated facial expressions, it was just a little tricky for me to get used to.
Yeah.
It didn't, like... ruin the entire experience for me, but it definitely dulled the whole thing, and that's never something that changed. So if that's something that's going to bother you going in, just know that feeling may or may not go away. But I mean, it's still worth getting all the way to the end, but you're going to be uncomfortable the whole ride.
It's definitely the biggest deterrent. I mean, when I started watching the show, I mean, I watch a lot of tokusatsu shows. When I first saw the show and I saw it through a preview, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. But when I tried to show it to, like, our friend Pete, for example, he's like, what? Puppets? No. It's off-putting, and if you're not used to it, it's same with watching tokusatsu show. It's hammy. Tokusatsu shows, they're very hammy acting. The special effects are not great. But
not at all.
But you're there for the fighting, or the cool suits, or the fun characters. Very similar, like, place of, like, origin, where it's like you're there for the fun characters and the fighting and such. Similar idea. And you're just like, am I going to accept some weirdness of the puppets and the back, or some bad moments of, like, green screen, or how they just glide across, which I enjoyed that. It made me laugh every time.
I thought it was pretty
but if that, like, takes you out of, like, the moment. Then that's fine. It took me out of the moment, but in a positive way. But to others, I could totally see it as a negative. It's how much you engage.
For example, there was, like, a later scene where, like, it was, like, one of the final episodes, without going into spoilers, but there was a character that, like, got to a location first. And he was, and it was all built up to him going, oh, I wonder what's going to happen here. And then he sees the other characters coming. He's like, oh, and it was basically like a zoinks moment where he runs and jumps in the bushes, and he just collided, and I'm like, that just killed the entire moment for me. Like,
you expected some Hanna-Barbera going like,
basically, especially because it came out of one of the most, like, elegant characters in the show too. Like, every time he moves, it's with, like, elegance, and then, like, that one scene, you just glided across the fucking screen and into a bush, and I'm like, okay.
You're right, Cass. The show would have definitely improved with some Hanna-Barbera sound effects.
No, now
You're
I need
right,
it.
150%.
I need, like, a redub of it. Just
totally.
It's funny because I'm with Zach too, in the sense that while me and Pete were kind of, like, off-put, Pete more so than I was, like, after episode 1, I was in. Same with Japanese tokusatsu. Like, I was not used to it, like, live action, and then just see it, like, the use of CG and, like, them trying to emote through a suit. I'm like, it's got, like, you know, it's barrier to entry, but once you pierce that bubble, and if you can accept it for what it is and go along for the roller coaster ride that it is, then you're in, like, Flynn. But, you know, if you're like, well, they do have a little bit, they are puppets after all, and this isn't anime.
This is a holy grail war after all.
Oh, fucking hell.
And it's to each their own. I don't expect everyone to get into Kamen Rider or Super Sentai or stuff like that, or this puppet show. It's willing as far as you're accepting. If this is not what you're looking for, then this is not what you're looking for. Nobody's,
I do think it's cool though that like one of the best parts of the show is its production, but also like one of the most biggest deterrents is probably the production.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting.
It's unique, and I mean, I think in like with situations where you have something unique like this, where there's like that adjustment, you always find that'll hit that sweet spot of being something that's both intriguing but also like off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually one bit going back to voice acting that I wanted to point out because I was really impressed by, and I guess it goes more to the range of this particular voice actor. It's Ling Jieya's voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a moment later on where, for reasons, Chuunibyou looks and sounds like Ling Jieya.
Okay.
And therefore you've got Ling Jieya's voice actor playing two characters.
Yes.
And he's able to switch between the personalities of these two characters and match Chuunibyou's character exactly the same as his usual actor's personality, like spot on.
Yes.
And I was just like colorly impressed with that.
Kosuke Torumi is his voice actor.
He also had a lovely voice.
Yeah, and he's like Raven in like Pandora Hearts, Kiba and like Naruto, stuff like that. He's also a bigger name. I like it. The voice cast is a lot of big names. That well done. A lot of all-star hitters.
I need to get better at recognizing voice actors and naming them.
To be fair, John, I just literally pulled it up on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't name it off the top of my head.
I can kind of recognize the voices, and I'm like, I know him from somewhere, but it's not enough for me to actually go, oh yeah, it was this other character, and then from there I could actually connect the dots. But I can never seem to do that, except for certain voice actors. But
you know what stood out for me as well, and I'm sure Dom is going to be the only one here that gives a shit about this as much as I did. The soundtrack, the
Sawano!
Sawano!
Fuck yeah.
I'm iffy on the Sawano. I think the dramatic highs are really good with Sawano, and I love the insert song of every time it gets to a dramatic moment when it cuts to the chorus. But I don't know, I think Sawano's music, he gets highs very well, but I think he's not really good in like the quiet moments. I think the music gets kind of drab.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I like his really like bombastic and sort of cheesy like style.
His get hype moments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, and that, I mean, that, like I said, the insert song when something dramatic happens is the ultimate cheese.
Yeah.
When it cuts to the chorus every time.
It's so good though.
Da, 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 da. It is so good. And it fits because this whole fucking show is cheesy as fuck. It is.
If anything, that just means he made music that matched the moments, because the bombastic moments were really fun, and then the quiet moments were kind of boring. There you go. Music.
I was gonna say he didn't really help the boring moments all too much.
He was just working with.
Not even the music is interesting.
Oh, I do have to share a moment that happened.
Okay.
And I won't say that this is too much of a spoiler, but there is a moment where the Screaming Phoenix Killer and Shangbu Huan, or the Edgeless Blade, or whatever you want to call him, are sitting at a table just having a discussion.
Yep.
And I just was sitting there with my face in my hand, and I looked at Dominic, and I was like, could they just fuck already?
Yes!
like,
they are.
Like, I was like, all they're doing is
literally
metaphorically stroking each other's blades.
They
That is what is
were.
going on.
They were!
They are.
I mean, I think everyone kind of like wants to fuck each other in the show parts. Right
I just was talking about this, the way they were talking to each other. It's like, I've been thinking of like 20 ways to kill you with every movement you've made, but you're the only man who I would not be able to cut down immediately. Oh, here, good sir.
That's assassin
It's
dirty
like-
talk.
And then it flashes to several of his imaginations of
God.
him trying to attack him as well.
You can cut the sexual tension with a fucking butter knife. Like,
Yes.
Jesus
It's really
Christ.
good.
Dominic's like shaking his head at me over here. It's true. Everyone's agreeing with me except
I know.
you.
I mean, I could get it.
I mean, I'm not
can see that.
saying you're wrong. It's just that was what you took out of that.
Yes, that's what I took out of it. Also, oh, never mind. I'll talk about this off the pod. I had one other question, but that's more of a spoiler. Ignore me.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, does anyone have anything else to say before we move into ratings?
Ratings.
Anything else?
Ratings.
Oh, Craig, you might actually, and this could be a nice review for like the listeners at home, but maybe review how we give ratings because I did not let Dominic know, and he hasn't listened to our.
Oh,
Here we go.
okay. Just one moment here. I gotta pull up the handy dandy guide again.
There was one thing I wanted to say about the ending. As much as it
Without spoiling.
without being a spoiler.
Okay.
I've got mixed feelings about the ending because it was total Deus Ex Machina and Deus Ex Machina. I cannot English at the moment. But it also kind of sets up for potential of being an ongoing series, which I think is what they were implying.
Season 2 was confirmed at the end of this.
Season 2 was confirmed.
And it's coming out this year.
It does not fix the problems of the Deus Ex Machina, though.
No.
Doesn't fix it. I don't think that the way that the ending was set up does anything necessarily to open it up to a season 2. They could have gotten from where they were, where things went really pulling stuff out of our ass, to where it ended in a much better way. I think that they set up way too much in episode 12 and said, oh fuck, we have to end this next episode, don't we? Oh right.
Yeah.
Like
They just like spent way too much time like not expanding on Shang Buhan's like backstory. Like it all comes
like
in,
they wanted
right
to keep
at
him
the end.
such the biggest secret of the show, which is kind of like the biggest theme throughout, is that nobody knows what the fuck his deal is, and even up until the very last episode, nobody really knew much about the dude.
Nope.
And even like the last few episodes were when we start to learning, and it's a detriment because nobody knows about him, and so everything feels rushed.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have brought up a couple more things to do with him.
Or tease it out like they did with Lin Shuya. Yeah, like Lin Shuya had plenty of teasing.
I will say that like when he does like do things that like are like his secret like when you learn that there's more like the little things he'll do, like I get more towards the second half of the show where he like starts doing things that are like oh shit, who is this guy? I will say that all those moments, especially like the final moment with him, you're just like, whoa, who is this base god?
I just wish when they teased out the idea of the enigmatic Gale by saying that nickname all the time, or people whispering in secret, they could have done the similar of people maybe noticing his fighting style and pointing it out sooner, like how he fights so bluntly, or stuff about his sword specifically. Like, if teased that out a little bit more, I think it would have been given more of an idea.
The only bit of character we're given is that he's quote unquote from another country where he would have had to cross a perilous like desert or something, like some area. I can't remember what it was called, like the Desert of Spirits or something.
Wasteland of Spirits.
Wasteland of Spirits or something. And that's always just said, it's never shown. So I feel like if we even got like just a small teeny tiny little flashback in his head whenever they mentioned it, where we could see, you know, what is shown to us in the last couple of episodes, I would have probably been more okay with it. But the way it's whipped out on the last couple episodes, I don't know. Too sexy for me.
Yeah, I wish they had like teased more of that towards that, instead of it just coming out of nowhere, because it was just completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, like I have ideas, but that would involve diving into spoilers.
Yeah, so
my thought process was, do you feel as though it would have been better if it would have had a smaller cast of characters?
No.
So it could expand upon it.
Because the whole idea is to get this fellowship, and the idea of the 7 deadly sins of the tower matches with the 7 members of the fellowship is obviously a purposeful choice.
Yeah. Okay.
That, and like the whole point is that you have all this like band of misfits Like, that's the whole point of the show. Like, if you take any one of them away, even though a lot of them, as Zach said, fell off towards the end, like, they made up the journey of the show. Like, they're like little back and forths. Like, even if it was just panning into how much Necromancer Lady fucking hates the enigmatic Gale, that just builds up the enigmatic Gale's character.
Or pretty much how everyone's antagonistic towards one another, period.
Yeah.
Like, no one really likes each other.
That makes it funny. So, like, I think if you take even just one of these characters away, it doesn't work anymore.
And also her 180 on her decision to go with the group after the name drop of the
sword.
The sword. And, like, no, we're gonna go get this thing. Oh, in that case, I'm all aboard. What? But you would just... Okay?
Don't worry about it. Move on.
The only people who go through this journey without selfless intentions is Danfei and Shanfu Huan.
Yeah.
And maybe Huang Kanyun, but Huang Kanyun, just his whole goal from the beginning was, I want to be famous, and I'm going to do this because I want to be famous. So,
what a precious
kinda
sunshine
selfish
boy. I love him.
But he has a nice fun turn, but...
Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of like dicks, antagonistic, have their own goals, and if to make it to the Fellowship is into Lord of the Rings, everyone in this fucking show is Boromir, pretty much. They all have their...
Yeah. Very corruptible and vain to an extent.
And have their own goals and end up doing their own shit.
Even Danfei gets called out on a number of times. Like, if this was really your goal, you should be going in the complete opposite direction of this tower.
Everyone, but to be fair, I think that her intentions were also not necessarily the worst out of the entire
No, I still agree with
hers
her.
Hers were the most human, I think.
Danfei is the pure one.
She's the purest damsel. And that's why I thought it was so cool when she fought, and then they had to take it away from... I'm not going to go on this one again. I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to be upset about that, I think.
Okay, good, because I'm really upset about that. Like...
Look, it's not good. But anyway.
So, Craig, explaining the rating system.
Explain the rating system for all y'all newbies and those who don't remember offhand. We go from the ratings worst to best here. Burn it, skip it, check it, like it, and love it. So again, that is burn, skip, check it, like it, and love it. Since this is my host choice, I go last, right?
Exactly. And I think maybe we can have the guest host go first.
Okay.
I'll say check it.
Okay.
Because I guess that's like around either...
It's kind of middle of the road. It's recommending people check it out, but it's not like the best experience.
Yeah, like if it's something that looks like you would be into it, like the whole, like, just, I guess, the puppets and the theatrics and the sort of over-dramatic, like, style of it all, if that sounds like something that's up your alley, then yeah, I would check it out.
For sure. I'm biased as fuck, so I'm gonna say like it. Dom's reasons are legit, and they probably exact my thoughts too, but I like the show. I probably would have said love it before this rewatch, to be honest, but rewatching it was tough at times. Like,
really?
Like I said, the dialogue gets a little too long-winded at times, a lot of monologue-y, and honestly, there was points where I started doing other things when stuff like that happened, and since I've seen the show, it was like, okay, I'm gonna like half pay attention.
I'm not the only one.
Like, I like the show still quite a bit, and I like what it does, and when it hits its highs pretty good, but it drags at parts.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give it a like it though, nonetheless. And I get it's not for everyone. And it helps to have a friend to push you into it, because I don't feel like half the people I know wouldn't watch the show if it wasn't for like me or someone else going like, just watch this, just watch it and see, okay, and then judge from there.
Yeah,
but it's hard. Like I said, the puppetry is the biggest deterrent of the show, and it's unfortunate, but it's also the biggest strength, because I don't know. Seeing it, if this was like an anime in comparison, I don't know, I'd be nearly as impressed.
Yeah, I get that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, same.
puppets are the make or break. But yeah, I'll give it a like it though, nonetheless.
All right.
Nice.
Who's
Next
next?
on the chopping block.
I can go.
Okay.
Because Dom basically already perfectly articulated the same rating that I would give it, which is a check it. For me personally, on terms of enjoyability, it was again, due to the barrier of entry, it was kind of a challenge to get through. I also noticed that I could not binge this show. Like, I could not, and I think it was partially due to just how much monologuing there was. I found that I had to space my watching. Like, even when I watched 5 episodes in a day, I would like watch one, do a half hour of something else, and then like watch another one.
I could agree. Yeah. I did the exact same thing.
Nice. Nice. But I do appreciate the uniqueness that the show does have to offer. And again, as Dom said, like, check it out if it intrigues you. It's not going to be for everybody, but is it worth taking a look into? Yeah, and you might come out liking it or loving it like some of our other hosts have.
Yeah.
I think I'm also going to give it a like it. But again, my feelings are very similar to pretty much what everyone else has said so far. There are a lot of things that can really put people off of watching this series, but thankfully you will notice them really quickly. And if they are enough to put you off of watching it, then that's your cue. But if you can get past those, I think there is quite a bit to like with the series, as many flaws as there are. It's got a unique charm to it, and like, I haven't really watched a puppet show since a puppet show like this since I was really young, and this is like above and beyond what I watched when I was little. Because being British, I grew up watching the likes of Captain Scarlet, Stingray, and Thunderbirds.
Birds and stuff like that, yeah.
Ooh.
And so I couldn't help but think back to those while watching this.
So you have a different perspective even when it comes to used to puppetry and television shows, because that's not a thing really over here in the US.
Yeah, I actually had a bit of a nostalgia with watching this in a weird way. But at the same time, the production values of this are above and beyond what I watched as a child.
Oh, no,
that's a fun perspective. Yeah, didn't think about that.
But so yeah, I'm giving it a like it for those reasons. But yeah, if you can't get past the puppetry, if you can't get past the slower moments, then this probably isn't for you.
Alrighty.
It's my turn.
Cass.
Okay. So I'm going to go with a check it as well, mostly for the reasons that everybody else has said. Also because, as I said earlier, the production in this show is just so good. Like, even the moments that are kind of off-putting, they did take me out of the moment a lot, but they were few and far between. And at least I could laugh at those moments. I think that they really utilized what they had, and they made something that is truly unique. And for that alone, you need to check it out. My issue is with, one, if this had been like an animated anime, as Zach had said, to me, the story and the characters are nothing I've not ever seen before. Like, it's pretty by the books. And in that regard, I can't say that it's the most interesting thing character-wise or plot-wise that I've ever seen. So what really sticks out is the puppets and everything that was done with them. And unfortunately for me, that was also the most off-putting thing about the whole production. So that's why I'm on this very weird fence that I'm falling on one side or the other. I had a really hard time even giving this a final rating, like a numerical rating.
I saw that.
And honestly, I feel like if I didn't watch this show with Dominic and have the moments where he's like, oh my god, this is so fucking Chuuni, or he was jumping up and down, clapping his hands, basically, I may have not had as much fun, and I need to keep that in mind. So I'm also going to give it a check it, but if you know anybody who's into this kind of stuff, check it out with them. Because if you watch it with somebody who's going to have a good time, you're going to have a good time too. I can guarantee that.
That was going to lead me to my question to Cammy. I forgot to ask that after her final thoughts. Is just like, Cammy, did you enjoy the show when me and you watched the first 2 episodes? Did you watch this with your boyfriend at all, or did you just do this by yourself? Did it feel like a slog because you watched it alone, if so?
I do think it was a slog by myself. It was definitely more fun watching it with you. Granted, even though that day I was like exhausted and a fucking zombie, but I had a lot of fun because you were having fun and we made like jokes and comments about it. So I mean, exactly like Cassie said, watch it with somebody.
Yeah.
It's a goofy, absurd show, and you should accept it.
Track it.
I probably would have had more fun watching it with other people as well. I did watch the whole thing by myself. But I did also have moments where I was like, okay, small break now.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess that leads it to me. What can't be said that's already been said about this show? It's really out there. The production is both the strongest and probably the most detrimental thing if you are put by puppets in and of themselves. Much like Zach said, upon rewatching this, the highs are very high, along with Sawano's musical scores. But when when the action stops and they monologue and then they stand and talk, it's pretty bad. Like, I multitasked. I remember the beats, but I didn't remember them being that, like, highs being that high, and, well, obviously the highs being high. I remember those more so than the lows.
It's not a very good marathon show, like Cammy pointed out. Because we watched it week to week, and that definitely helped.
Oh yeah, I will say though, however, to play devil's advocate to the lulls in the monologues, anything dealing with the screaming Phoenix Killer with his monologues or his like talking was really fucking entertaining. It was so over the top and so extra to a point where I was just like, yes, slow claps. This is amazing.
And I think part of the reason why the drag is also because they're just not only monologuing, but they're also just like exposition jumping a lot, especially in the first half.
Yeah.
And especially when you're trying to get used to the characters and their names, I'm not used to the Chinese names, and even like they say everything that's slightly important has a Chinese name, so they'll go by the Chinese name. So you're just like,
who's who?
Ting Xinjian or Shuan Guozhang clan, and just like, oh geez, I gotta keep track of all this.
I gotta write it down in my notepad. I can't remember the bad guy clan. I can't remember what's the sword's name again.
And they're trying to explain lore or backstory or people's legends or whatever or demon realms. It's hard to keep track of, and it definitely feels exposition-y.
Yeah. And not only that, but the ending, I will say, while being hyped...
pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
While being hyped, it is really fucking bad.
Oh god, I even, when I first watched the show, I thought it was awful. I'm like, oh, this is happening right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just pulling a Deus Ex Machina out of your butt, and it's just like, goodbye, big bad. Okay, season 2? Boss, I can't see what happens next, but okay. It still doesn't explain it or make it any better, guys. So if you haven't gathered by now, I liked it, but damn does it have flaws. It's a like it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of like-its and check-its,
So 3 check-its and 3 like-its?
Oh, shit, son.
I think mostly, and honestly, I think we have the same opinions of the check-its. We're just slightly biased.
A high check-it.
Yeah.
It seems...
That seems to be the overall score.
A check plus right there.
Check plus. Check 0.5.
Check 0.5. I'm actually going for the check 0.7.
If we're going for like grading scale here, we're in class. This show gets a C plus, maybe a B minus.
I might give it a nice B minus.
I mean, it's a few steps up above a You Tried star. Like it's doing pretty well for itself.
I might give it a nice smelly sticker. Not one of the best ones. It's not like watermelon.
It's the banana one.
But you might get like
smelly sticker.
It's like the banana. You're like, does this really smell like banana? I'm not sure.
Dare.
Does banana?
I like the banana scratch and sniffs.
Oh no,
I'm partial.
Then it could be like a nice orange, orange sticker. I don't know. Sticker biases are true.
Before we wrap things up, Cammie came up with a really cool idea, and I think we should start implementing it on this episode. Maybe we can do it in the same order that we did our rating. So Dominic, then Zach, then wherever it went from there. But everybody can recommend a show that's similar to this if they did like it. If you could think of one.
Uh-oh.
If you can't, that's fine. But
Yeah.
Dominic, you want to start us off?
I'll be really obvious and just say Kamen Rider or...
Fuck.
Well, Zach's out.
I'm out.
There's just because, like, I think, like, coming from that sort of background of watching, like, tokusatsu and stuff, it's just, like, the sort of limited, like, way the production works in comparison to anime, and, like, sort of, like, dealing with these, like, I guess, in some ways, drawbacks of how, like, the story is told, I think, at least for me, fosters a, like, deeper appreciation of, like, the actual story and what goes into it. If it works, like, I think the show is a check it, but in, like in tokusatsu, like, for shows that I really, really like, I think one of the things that kind of sells me on that sort of thing is the fact that you have this sort of limited sort of, like
budget.
Yeah, and budget and, like, means of telling, like, the story that might seem really cheesy, but I think when, like, you can get past that sort of barrier and appreciate what's trying to be told to you, I think, like, the fact that you have something like that you can actually, like, relate to or, like, get something out of, like, sort of enhances that experience, at least for me. So, yeah, I would recommend something like Kamen Rider. Maybe Gaim, if you really like Urobuchi.
Damn it. God. I was going to at least try to specify, but then you had to take that from me, too.
Well, Zach, you're up to bat!
I was about to say, if you since there are so many Kamen Rider series, is there one specific one you might recommend?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that show, but it's definitely in the same vein.
It's same writer, similar feels, and it's pretty easily accessible to new fans. If you especially have something to check out and it's newer, so it's not as off-putting as some of the older stuff. When it comes to the older shows, I think Hibiki is probably the closest in terms of, like, setting and feel, but that one's really slow and not probably a good first one to get into Kamen Rider wise. But yeah, Gaim is definitely the choice, both with the same writer, and though since Dom already did the obvious recommendation, there's a manga called Kingdom.
Oh.
That has an anime version, but it's not really
don't see
great.
it. Okay.
But the Kingdom manga takes place in this is a Chinese focus, like, during the Warring States period era with, like, so it's similar, and it's a shonen manga, so it's kind of like a little over the toppy, but it's like Berserk, but it's more shonen, but takes place in China, and so that's the closest I feel, like, in terms of setting. That I could think of off the top of my head. It's like this warring state in China with Chinese characters, and maybe just this confusion of trying to remember the character name sometimes is. But I read some of that back in the heyday. I got like 100 chapters in, and I kind of dropped off, mostly because I'm terrible at reading. But, not because of the quality, really. But that's the closest equivalent I could think of besides Kamen Rider.
Nice. I've got two real quick. So the first thing that this show made me think of, especially just with the very manly, like, shouting of the move names and the almighty swords and weapons, just totally brought me back to Inuyasha. Like completely.
Iron Reaper Soul Stealer!
Yes, just like that. And so that was definitely one that I thought of. But also, and I mentioned this to Craig in private message earlier in the week, but it did kind of remind me a bit of Akatsuki no Yona with, like, the...
God damn it.
I'm sorry. Would you like to flesh out why?
I didn't say that because I figured that'd be everyone else's choice, to be honest.
It's okay. I have another one.
Okay. Akatsuki no Yona, because it's kind of like a Chinese-ish, like, inspired sort of fantasy setting with dragons and the journey and all that.
Yeah.
Sexual tension between main characters. Like the
You're right.
Phoenix game.
Everyone thirsty for each other in one way or another.
I was actually sitting here trying to hum and harm between two different thoughts, but maybe not the same sort of setting, but definitely with the whole yelling out attacks thing. And you've also got the Genera Butcher tie-in. Maybe Fate Zero.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I can see it.
That's some more.
Yeah, if you like the writer.
That's more of a dark, also like combat kind of show.
Yeah, but in terms of like levels of magic battles, this is that's
screaming out attack names or spells.
Wow.
Works.
Yeah. The other one I was kind of considering, but doesn't really fit, and is even darker than Fate Zero that I was considering was Drifters, but maybe not. That's a bit more of a stretch. Nah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
So, other than, Akatsuki no Yona, which is the kind of the obvious one to reference, this one isn't, the one that I want to recommend has absolutely nothing to do with swords or yelling or ridiculous story, but it does have a lot of fantasy. And I think that one of the things that I really liked in this show, Thunderbolt Fantasy, was the backgrounds, the artwork, and how magic worked in that world. So in that regards, I would recommend from a more recent show, Mahoutsukai no Yome.
Nice.
Really good at building up this magical world in the world we currently live in. I think the main setting is actually in London, but you do have this basic set of powers and how they work, and they do have power sets. And I think that I was just as drawn into that world as I was this one. I think that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah. That's a pretty damn good recommendation. Awesome. Magic base, the setting is one of the biggest parts. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Guys, I'll be honest and say I'm like on my Mal and I'm scrolling and I can't find Jack.
If you can't come up with it,
let me go through the Gen Urobuchi catalog real quick.
Recommend Chunibyo because if you want to see some more Chunies.
Loki, I saw it and I was like, no.
May I point out, I have not said Chuni as much as my life in this fucking podcast.
Yeah, now you need to bathe. Now you need to cleanse yourself of this poison.
Yeah, got some mouthwash at hand, so
I'll take any opportunity to try and push people watching Chunibyo. It is a great show and really underrepresented.
Also, the magic circles that kept on appearing behind people as they were casting spells in Thunderbolt Fantasy does seem similar to what Rika kept on pulling. And various other characters in Chunibyo.
And the eye patch character.
The eye patch!
I mean, I think we get an eye patch character because he actually lost an eye, though. So
true, but it's the aesthetic.
He didn't steal the magic away.
Aesthetic.
Look, they started calling me the one-eyed impaler, and I had to go with it. So, you know,
go with it.
I figured pick up it made things difficult in terms of Amy, but I got over it.
Oh god, I was referring to a completely different character.
Who you?
There are two.
I'm not going to say, it's a spoiler.
Yeah,
that's kind of ironic if you think about it.
Oh, geez.
Christ. Yeah, I can't really think of anything because everything has been said. So jokingly, go watch Chunibyo if you want, like a stupid high school show about kids thinking they're gonna fight each other with magic.
I see more wuxia films because I feel like a lot of wuxia films are definitely in this vein too. It's just a blind spot of my nerddom. I have not seen too many outside of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or blah blah blah.
Any Bruce Lee movie.
That's not even wuxia films. That's not wire work. Bruce Lee is more straightforward. But...
Guys, we never touched on if the show was really anime or no.
I like the joke. It's the best anime in 2016 because I didn't watch any anime in 2016. So
you went back and looked, and you didn't, did you? You tried?
I did. I double checked. I'm like, nope. I watched nothing that year. So that's why I'm like and also it bothered a couple people I talked to when I said that. So it definitely stuck. And I like my boy Lin Shuya, I like to rub people the wrong way by making my dumb jokes, play with them, so to speak. So gotta follow my boy.
I'm glad that I dragged you all into this hell. Thanks, Zach, for this, and it probably won't happen again, because unless we talk about Kamen Rider, I don't got anything else.
I did like 3 of the shows I forced people to sit down in this podcast were producer's choice. They're fun. Yeah.
The funny thing is,
Zach's pulling the strings.
While I was watching Thunderbolt Fantasy, I was like, I feel like I would even though it'd be kind of bland, appreciate this more as an anime or as a live action series. And Dominic was like, oh, so you're saying you'll watch Kamen Rider with me? And I'm like,
Someday.
So anyway.
Someday. I'm gonna do
She
it.
got 2 episodes into O's. Pick it up.
I'm gonna make her watch the rest of something.
Oh,
She tried watching O's with me and Zach way back in the day, and she dropped it.
All I remember is Ankh was very pretty. That's it. That's all I got.
Ankh is so pretty.
And that's a good pickup line. Go with it.
W has 2 pretty boys.
It's true. Double does have 2 pretty boys.
Host, save us from
Are you
this
saying
hell,
Shampoo Han is not
please.
pretty? With his dead eyes.
Okay, and on that note, everyone, this has been episode 63 of Any Chat Box. I've been Craig. That's been Zach. That's been Cass. That's been Cammy. That's been JoJo. And that's been Dom. I hope I got everyone. Did I get everyone?
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Cool.
Mm.
All right. Just again, if you didn't know, twitter.com/theanychatbox if you want to hit us up there, and anychatmail@gmail.com if you want to hit us up with an email. Again, that is anychatmail@gmail.com. Until next time, everyone. Peace out.
Oyasumi.
It was a giant mantis all along.
Bye-bye.